15 signs that she is marriage material. I wanted to talk with you about some really important stuff because maybe you want to get married, but before you can walk down that aisle, it is really important that you are aware of these 15 components that I think are really, really important. Her life goals are so important. Are her life goals in alignment with your goals? Do you both want the same things or not? If not, chances are the relationship will not work in the long term. You can always make it work in the short to mid term, but making it work in the long term really has a lot to do with your goals. Are your goals in alignment? Do you want the same thing? Do you want to be focused on your profession? Does she want to be focused on her profession? Do you both agree on that? What else do you like to do? Do you want to have a family, kids? We're talking about so many different things here. Take a look at her goals and make sure that they're in alignment with your goals. Her emotional stability. Is she emotionally stable? Yes or no? It's really important because let's say you have an argument. You gotta work things out. You gotta talk about it to solve the problem. Yet she refuses to talk about it because it's her way of dealing with things. There's very little that you can do to change a person. A person can only change herself if she really wants to change herself. So take a look at a very early stage. In the early stage, take a look at how she handles stress. How does she solve problems? Does she talk about problems? Whenever you bring something up that you are maybe concerned about, does she want to communicate about it? Does she want to solve it, or does she just walk away? This is really, really important because what happens later on when you have kids, when you have a family, when you have big financial commitments together, what happens when problems arise? Does she just walk away, or does she actually want to solve these problems by communicating with you? Communication is the key. You don't want a woman who is a heavy Instagram or Facebook user. And the reason why I'm saying this is because it's a delusional world. It's a fake reality. People are posting fake photos, they are posting perfect photos, they take 30 photos and maybe they post one. Or they use Photoshop to make the photo look much better than it actually should look like. You make a person look perfect even though the person is not perfect at all. Perfect makeup, perfect photo editing. You can do as much as you want, but at the end of the day, that doesn't reflect reality. But that's just one side of using Instagram and Facebook, right? It's also very much about, really wanting the best all the time, because people don't really talk about their problems at all. People talk about the good stuff, how happy they are, how great they are. And chances are, if your woman is really focused on this all the time, she's gonna get depressed because that's what she wants, that's what she sees, that's what she consumes. You are what you spend your time on. There's no doubt that physical attraction is really important. Are you physically attracted to her? Well, it isn't so important that she's a 10 out of 10 or even an 8 out of 10. It's important that you personally feel attracted to her physically. While physical attraction is not everything, you gotta have that going for you as well. If you like her, if you're into her, if you're physically attracted to her, chances are things will work out much better in the bedroom, and you are going to have a much better relationship than if you're not physically attracted to her. Her character and personality are really important. Personality is something that you can spot very quickly, right? How a person behaves, what she is leaning more towards, right? If she's an introvert, if she's an extrovert, is she very social? What does she like to do? How does she solve problems? How does she talk? There's so many things, basically there are 4 different personality types, 4 main personality types, but then there's also 16, subcategories here. But it's really important you consider her personality and your personality. If you're a very introverted person and she's a very extroverted person, but you don't want to change, and she values activities, she values, aspects of life that are not really important to you, then chances are you either need to change for the relationship, for the marriage to work, or you rather find someone with a similar personality. Because at the end of the day, you're going to spend most of the time together, and if 2 people want very different things all the time, chances are it will not work. Past relationships. This is a really important one because, for a man, we often think that it's definitely good if we can find a woman that has very few relationships. And I think that holds true in many cases because you don't want to take a person on board that has a lot of baggage. Maybe a relationship or 2, not too bad. But if you want to have a family, if you want to build a solid foundation with someone, you probably wouldn't choose a woman that slept with 30 or 40 dudes. That's just not very attractive. And neither does that guarantee that she's going to stick to you. In fact, what we have seen from extensive research is that the amount of relationships, the amount of sexual partners a woman had over her lifetime is in direct relation to the success that you and her will have in the relationship. That is something you need to consider. So the fewer past relationships, the fewer marriages, no marriages at all, obviously children need to be taken into consideration as well. So, the less history she has, the better for you. The money matters scale. I mean, is money very important to her? Does she ask you for money all the time? Does she prioritize money over you? Is she only after your money? How does she behave if you say no to certain things? How does she behave if, you're not really listening to her? Or is she even paying attention to your opinion about how money should be spent? Is she an overspender? There's so many questions that you need to ask, but the money matters scale is really important. How important is money to her? Is she looking for a financial provider? If she's from a developing country, definitely yes. If she's from a Western country, chances are she has her own income. She's independent, right? But if you're looking for a woman to build a relationship with and have a marriage with and have children with, and that woman is from a developing country, then you really need to be aware of the money matters scale. Because at the end of the day, you're going to be the provider and you're in charge and you have to determine how the money is spent. That doesn't mean you shouldn't listen to her, but it's really important that she's coming after you with the right intentions. Does she want to have children? Well, that is important, because if you don't learn that right away and you don't ask that question right away, you wait maybe a couple of years before you ask that question, and maybe she changed or she never wanted to have kids to begin with. Kind of not too good if you figure that out years after, where you could have asked the question before the relationship began. These are really important things. Ask the question earlier rather than later. Commonalities. Do you have commonalities? Do you have common interests? Do you like to do things together? Think about it. I mean, if you like to do sports, she likes to do sports, she's into sports, she likes working out, whatever it is, as long as you have commonalities, as long as you have maybe 2 or 3 things you can do together with. You don't need to have everything in common with your woman, but if you have a couple of things in common, there's a much greater chance that the relationship will work. How family oriented is she? Does she care a lot about her existing family? We're talking her parents, her grandparents, her nieces, her siblings, her nephews, uncles, aunties, whoever. Does she care about these people? Or does she not really care about them? Because that kind of gives you an indication of how well she could do when she starts a family with you. It doesn't mean that, just because she has a bad relationship with her existing family, she will also have a bad relationship with you. But I think it's kind of important to really take a look at the data here, take a look at the facts and see what's going on. And if things are not going very well for her, ask her why it is, and if there's anything that she could do in order to solve this, or how she would solve a similar situation if she was to have a family with you. Her profession. That's important, because you got to ask yourself, can you accept her profession? If you live in the West, is this a good profession? Is she able to pull in enough money? Because if you live in the West, and you are just a regular guy, working a 9-to-5 job, you probably need more than your income in order to sustain yourself and your family, right? So ask yourself if the profession that she's currently in has enough potential. And if not, is she willing to do something about it? Really important question to ask. Her family's profession. Why would that be important? Well, in a developing country, for instance, if you marry a girl and it turns out that her family is not really stable financially, and neither is the woman that you intend to marry, the question arises whether you will have to take care of her family when you marry the woman. That's important, because you're taking on another big financial responsibility, and it may be very difficult for you to say no, because it may be expected from you, the foreigner, if you decide to marry into their culture, into their family. And what about animals? Does she love animals? It's maybe not important for every guy, but some guys, they want to have pets. Maybe they have dogs, cats, they have hamsters, guinea pigs, birds. Jesus, the list goes on. What do you think about that? I mean, if you like dogs and she doesn't like dogs, maybe it's not gonna work out, because you always want to have a dog and she always says no, or she's scared of dogs, had bad experiences, or maybe she doesn't like animals at all, which can be a problem if you later on want to have a pet. What about her health? Is she in good health? I think that is important, because if you're together with a drinker, with a drug addict, or just with somebody who is in bad health for whatever reason, maybe, they never did sports, maybe it's bad nutrition, lack of exercise, whatever it may be, maybe it's her mental state, take a look at her health. Is her health compatible to yours? Can you accept her current health and potentially problems that could arise in the future? Is she broken? What do I mean by that? Well, broken in the sense that, if she had past relationships or past experiences that didn't go her way, where she had a really negative experience, the experience had a very negative impact on her life. Is she broken? Is she still recovering from this incident? Whether it's a relationship, an incident, ask yourself the question, because it could very well affect the relationship and the marriage that you guys have. And a bonus sign, her inner circle. Is she well connected? Does she have very close ties with people people, because I know it depends on her personality, but at the end of the day, you gotta have a good friend or two. You know, if you have a person that just doesn't have any friends at all, that kind of, leads towards a negative personality trait. Because if a person can't keep people near them, then that's a big red flag that you need to be aware of. So make sure you consider that, as well as the other signs that I've pointed out in this video. Have I forgotten to mention any sign that you think are important and should be discussed in a future video? What are your experiences? Leave a comment below and let us know. Consider subscribing if you haven't already. I'm uploading new videos on digital nomad locations, travel updates, and investment advice several times a week right now. I highly recommend that you grab a free copy of my latest ebook, The Nomad Elite Income Booster, your go-to guide for creating passive income streams using the internet. And if you got some more time left, check out these videos. Thank you for watching.